Dementia confronts us with an unsettling metaphysical question. What happens to the self when its temporal continuity is fractured? At its core, dementia is not a mere medical condition. It is an ontological unraveling, a revelation of the fragility that underpins human identity. The disintegration of memory, the dissolution of reason, and the collapse of recognition. These are not just neurological events. They are ruptures in the fabric and the nature of what we understand as being. To grapple with this, we must step beyond conventional frameworks of cognition and delve into the metaphysical substratum of existence itself. The self, as we ordinarily conceive it, is a construct of continuity, a stream of consciousness that weaves past, present, and future into a coherent narrative. It is this narrative that grants us our sense of agency, identity, and place within the cosmos. Yet, if the threads of this narrative are severed, as they are in dementia, we are forced to ask, what remains? Is there a substratum of selfhood untouched by the dissolution of memory? Or is the self entirely a construct of its temporal coherence? This question recalls the Kantian insight that time is not an objective property of the world, but a condition of human perception. For Kant, the self emerges only within the temporal framework imposed by the mind, what he called the transcendental unity of apperception. Without this unity, the self collapses into a series of disconnected phenomena, incapable of synthesis or recognition. Dementia, then, is a radical exposure of this transcendental condition. It reveals with brutal clarity the contingency of the self upon the fragile scaffolding of time. And yet, even as it disintegrates, dementia opens a metaphysical horizon. If the unity of the self is bound to time, what of the timeless? Mystical traditions, from Neoplatonism to Sufism, have long posited that the temporal self is but a shadow of a deeper, eternal essence. Plotinus speaks of the One, the ineffable source of all being, which lies beyond time and multiplicity. In dementia's erasure of the temporal self, are we witnessing a descent into nothingness, or a return to its primordial unity? The mystic's path, after all, is one of disillusion. In Sufi thought, the annihilation of the self is not a loss but a transcendence, a liberation from the illusion of individuality and emerging with the infinite. Dementia, in its involuntary unraveling, mirrors this process in a distorted, chaotic form. Yet it raises the profound possibility that what we perceive as the loss of selfhood might, from another vantage, be an unveiling of the self's true ground. A ground not in memory or narrative, but in the eternal. This idea finds resonance in Hegel's dialectic, which understands being not as static, but as a process of becoming, a synthesis born of contradiction. Dementia appears as a negation, a tragic undoing of the self. But Hegel's dialectic reminds us that negation is never the end. It is the precondition for transformation, for the emergence of a higher unity. Could it be that dementia, in its devastation, gestures towards a truth that lies beyond the dualities of presence and absence, memory and forgetting, self and other? The answer remains elusive, for it lies beyond the limits of our cognition, beyond what Kant called the boundaries of the phenomenal world. But in confronting dementia, we are confronted with the limits of human, and in those limits we catch a glimpse of the infinite. The self, it seems, is both more fragile and more profound than we can imagine. Its dissolution is not merely a loss, but an opening, a rupture that points, however darkly, towards the mysteries at the heart of existence.